You remember the Infinity Castle arc, right? When Muzan finally stops running and reveals how empty immortality actually made him feel inside? Canon says he just wants the sun to walk freely forever, but that explanation never felt big enough for his centuries of cruelty. Here's the terrifying twist I can't unsee anymore: that Muzan doesn't fear death, he fears being remembered as human ever again. Back in the Heian era flashbacks around episode range of the Upper Moon meeting, he isn't angry at demons, he's disgusted by himself. He talks about perfection, but every time he sees Tanjiro's Hanafuda earrings, his voice cracks for half a second. Those earrings aren't just Yorichi, they're proof that Muzan was once weak, coughing blood, baiting a doctor for a miracle cure. In canon, that doctor dies too early, but imagine if the real horror is that the medicine actually worked beyond anyone's imagination. What if Muzan didn't become immortal instantly, but instead became trapped between healing and rotting, never fully alive, never allowed to die? That explains why his cells reject everything, why even upper moons disintegrate if they displease his unstable blood control. Watch the Entertainment District arc again. The way he discards Daki without hesitation feels less like cruelty and more like panic management. He isn't building an army, he's deleting reminders that this condition spreads, that others might share his cursed in-between existence. Here's where it gets darker. Every demon he creates isn't a soldier, it's another failed experiment to recreate his lost humanity. Akaza's obsession with strength, Gyutaro's hatred of society, all mirror fragments of Muzan's own shattered Heian identity. During the Swordsmith Village arc when Nezuko conquers the sun, notice Muzan doesn't celebrate, he screams like he's being erased. If immortality was freedom, that moment would be victory, but instead it feels like the universe just told him he's obsolete. Now imagine the divergence. Instead of ordering her capture, Muzan personally hunts Nezuko with a desperation Tanjiro has never seen. Not to steal her power, but to prove that she is wrong, that survival doesn't require becoming a monster like he did. This is why he can't kill Tanjiro immediately in early arcs. The boy carries the one life Muzan remembers failing. Every battle from Mount Natagumo onward becomes a mirror. Demons choosing hatred, humans choosing warmth, and Muzan stuck nowhere. And you can feel it in the final arc buildup. Like the story isn't about killing a villain, it's about ending a mistake.
Here's where it turns tragic, because in this branch, Muzan finally confronts Tanjiro inside the Infinity Castle before any coordinated Hashira assault begins. He doesn't attack first. He asks quietly how it feels to wake up without pain, like a man touching a memory that physically hurts. Tanjiro answers honestly about his family, about warmth, about how pain reminds him he's still alive and still needed somewhere. For the first time in centuries, Muzan hesitates, and the castle itself seems to warp, like his cells don't understand mercy anymore. Then Yorichi's shadow floods his mind, that sunrise duel replaying endlessly. The only man who saw him as pitiful instead of godlike. You could have lived, Yorichi's voice echoes in his head, not accusing, just tired. And Muzan finally collapses in silence. The upper moons feel it instantly, Akaza dropping to one knee mid-fight, Doma smiling while tears fall he doesn't understand. In canon, they die for Muzan's ambition, but here they're dying because his will to remain a mistake is finally fading. The final battle stops being about slaying a king and turns into watching an immortal decide whether existence itself is worth continuing. Tanjiro steps forward, not with sun breathing, but with the same trembling voice he used on Rui back at Natagumo. He says, "You're not a curse, you're just someone who was never allowed to be healed properly." And that sentence is the real Nichirin blade, because Muzan's body doesn't burn, it starts remembering how to fail. Cells unravel not from sunlight but from permission, like the original medicine finally reaching the end of its twisted purpose. In the real story, he disintegrates screaming, but in this timeline, he whispers the doctor's name like a child finding home. The Infinity Castle crumbles not as a battlefield but as a hospital ward being shut down after centuries of pointless suffering. When it's over, there's no cheering, just exhausted Hashira realizing they didn't kill evil, they witnessed it letting go. Nezuko wakes human not because of blood or science, but because Muzan's fear finally stopped poisoning the world, and every demon left alive collapses, freed from experiments they never volunteered to be part of in the first place. So when you rewatch the series now, every glare Muzan gives isn't dominance, it's terror of being reminded he was once small. Tell me honestly, does killing a monster feel better than watching one finally forgive itself and disappear? Which ending feels more Demon Slayer to you? Endless revenge or mercy so strong it terrifies immortality itself?